Well, good morning, guys, or afternoon, whenever it is that you're doing this. This is a quick little review video on finding the midpoint and finding distance between 2 points. Make sure you take these notes, submit them along with your homework today, and you will be good to go. So let's first review midpoint. This would be the middle point in between two segments, so that the two segments that get cut in half would be congruent. They would be the same. Some words there that maybe you haven't heard from me yet, and you will a little bit this week when we're doing things, the whole idea of congruent and line segments and so on. That's gonna be a part of what we do. All right? But anyways, how do I find the midpoint? So there's a midpoint formula that you're gonna use, and the formula is to add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. Okay, and you were taught that last week, so that should be pretty obvious to you. Let's just do a couple of quick examples of that. So let's say, for example, that you have 2 points. Let's go with 5, negative 3, and negative 2, negative 7. Okay? Could we find the midpoint of those 2 points? Well, we need to understand that each point is x, y, x, y. And that, remember, because I wrote this one down first, I'm going to call that x1, y1. And I'm going to call this x2, y2. Right? Again, because I wrote that down second. So now I just need to follow the formula, which the formula is to take the first x, 5, add to it the second x, negative 2, but divide those by 2. So I add the 2 x's, divide by 2. And now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to add the y's, negative 3 plus negative 7, divided by 2. And now from here, I'll simplify it. So 5 plus negative 2 is 3. So that's 3 over 2. And I'm fine with you leaving it just like that for your x coordinate. And your y coordinate is going to be positive 10. No, sorry, not positive 10, negative 10 over 2. Okay, negative 3 plus negative 7 is negative 10 over 2. Now, you don't want to leave that one that way, because you can actually divide negative 10 divided by 2. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So my answer here is 3/2, negative 5. And there's the answer for your midpoint. Okay? Again, add the x's, divide by 2. Add the y's, divide by 2. Now, they might give you a graph, so let's make a quick graph. Again, remember, you can always pause these videos if you need to go grab some graph paper real quick. Okay? And so they might give you a segment that's been graphed. Okay? It might go, let's say, from right here. Now, I'll give the right here information in just a second, because that's actually part of the question. And maybe right there. Okay, and so it's already graphed on the sheet, and they want you to find that midpoint. Well, the only way you can find the midpoint is if you know the 2 points, because you have to have 2 points to use the formula. Well, I don't know 2 points. Yes, I do. I can look here and say, okay, this point right here is at negative 2, 2. And this point here is at 3, 3. And that is going to give me what I need to find the midpoint. I'll call this one my x1, y1, and I'll call this my x2, y2. Okay. So now just using the formula, which again is to add the x's. So I'm going to add the x's, negative 2 plus 3, divided by 2. And then I'm going to add the y's, 2 plus 3, divided by 2. So if I've done that, I end up with 1 over 2, which you can leave that way. A half is fine. You can change it to 0.5 if you'd rather. And then 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 over 2. And that would be your midpoint. Okay, pretty simple. Now, again, we showed this in class, but let's look at it again real quick here. Where is 1/2, this is 2.5. 1/2, 2.5 is right there. And if you look at it, that looks like it's pretty much in the middle. We have to trust the formula that it's actually correct. Okay, so that's the first thing that you need to make sure that you can do. Now the second thing that you need to be able to do is distance formula. Okay, and we had the distance formula last week in class. We want to find how far 2 points are apart from each other. So the distance formula is the big square root of, now you're going to do x2 minus x1 and then square it, and then add to it y2 minus y1 and then square it. So you're going to be subtracting the x's here and squaring them. Adding the y, or adding to it the y's being subtracted and squared. Right? So let's do a couple of those. Okay, so letter A, let's say that I have the points 3, 4 and 2, -7, and I want to find the distance. Again, each point is x, y. You don't have to write this on every question that each point is x, y, and that this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. But it's nice if you do, to help you. And so now the distance is going to equal the big square root. Now sometimes students get scared of this because they see a big square root and squared, but it's just subtraction and then multiplying another number by itself with some addition and then a little bit of calculator work. You can do this. Okay, so x2 is 2, subtract x1, which is 3, squared, plus y2, that's -7, minus y1, 4, squared. So the distance is going to equal the big square root of 2 minus 3, which is -1, squared, plus -11 squared. Okay, just doing the subtractions, putting stuff together. Now I've got to square these. So the distance equals the square root of -1 squared is 1, plus 11 squared is 121. So this distance is the square root of 122. Okay, now there's something called simplified square root form, which we don't really dive into much here. We might as the year progresses. But from here now, I'm going to want you to punch this into a calculator and get an approximate answer. So you're going to take your calculator, square root of 122, and that answer is, and we want to round these to the nearest hundredth. That's the way I ask you to do it. Now read the worksheet. If it asks you to round to a specific place, make sure you do. But if I round this 11.05 is rounding it to the nearest hundredth, because it's 11.04536. The hundredths is where the 4 is. You look to the right. If it's 5 or higher, you bump this up, and we get 11.05. Okay, let's do one more distance formula question, and then I'll set you free on your worksheet. Okay, so one last distance formula question. So again, we want to find the distance, and the 2 points this time are going to be -4, 2, and 1, 7. Okay? So again, each point is x, y, x, y. I do recommend that you write the formula down each time because it helps you to memorize it. And your integrated 2 teacher is going to want you to have memorized this. Okay, you do some stuff where you need this formula, and so you want to know it and have it. Okay? All right, so now we're going to do x2, which is 1. So this is going to be the distance equals the big square root of x2, I'm saying is 1. Subtract x1, -4. Be careful there, because it's 1 subtract -4, minus minus turning to plus. And now add to it y2. y2 is 7. Subtract y1, which is 2, squared. So I'm subtracting my x's, squaring it, subtracting my y's, and squaring it. So on this one, I have distance equals the square root of 1 plus 4, which is 5, squared, plus 7 minus 2 is also 5, squared. So this is going to be distance equals the square root of 25 plus 25. And now from here, that distance equals the square root of 50. Okay, now again, that's not in simplified square root form, but we don't really know much about that yet, and that's okay. But we're going to square root 50 on our calculator, and we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. Now I got that was 7.07106, a bunch of other numbers you can see. But again, we're just going to write it to 2 decimal places. That's to the nearest hundredth. So the 7 is in the hundredths place. Look to the right. Is it 5 or higher? No, so we don't bump it up, and the approximate answer is 7.07. All right, so you should feel like you got a pretty decent handle on that. Go ahead and work on the worksheet. Make sure that you submit the notes and the worksheet answers, the work that you did to it, on Canvas by this evening. All right, everybody have a great day. I will see you later. Bye-bye.